Hey, podcast explorers, how's it? Today's episode is with Linda Bennett. Now, recently, Sweet Lady Gail and I took Hypnotherapy 101 at the Southwest Institute of Healing Arts, and Linda is the program director, and she was our instructor, and we loved the experience. And so I want you to experience how awesome Linda is. And on today's episode, we talk about hypnotherapy, some of the myths of what it's not, and some of the things that it is. It's basically guided imagery, and it helps you get into a relaxed state where you can take your active mind with all of the checklists and the to-do lists, and you can give it something to do by saying, go sit in the corner, go play, and now we're going to put you in a state of being relaxed so we can find our subconscious and our unconscious and maybe tap into the collective unconscious and get some information that our soul wants to have on this spiritual journey that we call life. We'll have a good conversation about the soul journey and what's really going on here. I think you're really going to love it. Now, at the end, there's a special gift. It's about a 7.5-minute guided meditation. Now, please do me a favor. If you're driving your car, pull over. I do not want you to listen to this beautiful guided imagery while you're driving in traffic. And if you're sitting at home on your couch, close your eyes. This is going to be perfect for you. I think you'll really enjoy it. And the theme of it is letting go of those things that give you anxiety or stress or hold you back from enjoying your life. It's really beautiful. And when you're done, go to our website and see what's going on. Go to Facebook and hit like. Go to our YouTube channel, hit subscribe. Go to iTunes and hit subscribe. Make sure you tell a friend. And remember my most important piece of advice: enjoy the ride. I'm David Marsh. Welcome to Exploring the Human Journey.
Exploring the Human Journey.
My life was falling apart. I didn't know what to do next, and someone introduced me to the process of hypnosis, and my life totally changed. That was about 25 years ago. And today, I have the pleasure of teaching others this incredible art of hypnotherapy. A lot of people aren't really quite sure what hypnotherapy is. You know, we've seen all those different stage shows or those movies where somebody commits a crime while they're under hypnosis. That's not what this is. This is about changing lives and helping people heal in so many different ways, whether it be physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual. It works on so many different levels. And it's really something that's quite natural for all of us to do. Have you ever gotten in your car, driven someplace, and have no recall of the journey you were just on? You don't know if you stopped at the stoplight. You're not sure if you closed your garage door, and you wonder if you should go back and check. That's a state of altered consciousness. And that's what hypnosis is. It's an altered state of consciousness where we get our conscious mind, that part of us that likes to analyze and criticize and figure things out, we get it out of the way so we can tap into that inner self where all of our answers are stored. Our imagination is the most incredible gift we all have. Your imagination is this incredible resource that if you can imagine it, you can achieve it. And that's what we work with hypnosis, is we tap into the imagination and take that imagination to the highest point possible. And out of that, we manifest what we want to create in our life.
Hi and welcome. I'm so glad you joined us today. My special guest is Linda Bennett. She's my hypnotherapy coach and instructor at SWIHA, and she's also known as the Hypno Queen. Linda, thanks for being here.
Thank you for inviting me.
It's so much fun. I love taking the Hypnotherapy 101. Sweet Lady Gail and I got to go to a class, and we learned so much. So hypnotherapy is something that I have enjoyed recently, learning a little bit about it, learning about the journey of souls with Michael Newton. And I'm really fascinated about the imagination and what the mind does. For those folks that don't know a whole lot about hypnotherapy, and they know a lot about the myths, kind of give some context about the whole scientific approach to it using the brain.
Well, Scientifically, I'm not going to give you all the details and facts. So
Exactly.
let's put that aside. In the sense that I think that's what scares a lot of people about hypnosis is let's make it practical. Let's make it simple enough that people can understand. You can talk about brain chemistry and all those elements, but that's over a lot of people's heads.
Mm-hmm.
So how can we simplify it? Thing about hypnosis is we go in and out of it all day long.
Yeah.
It's a natural state, and that's what a lot of people have been taught to not believe in. They believe that hypnosis is unnatural, that it's about controlling other people.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the myth. It's something that is utilizing our imagination. And as far as I'm concerned, our imagination is the greatest gift we have. We can use it for us, and we can use it against us.
It's true. Now, I loved how you in Hypnotherapy 101, you give us, these are some myths that people think. They think it's brain control. They think that you're going to do something to me. They think I have no control. My experience was it's merely a guiding, hey, how does this feel? Imagine this picture. And how does that make you feel? And then what information do you get? And you're like, wow, I can receive information or something deep within inside. Give the viewers, the listeners, some of the context of the different myths that people think about, and what's up with that. Right.
Well, again, the control issue. There's a lot of people who think that people can get stuck in hypnosis. Never happened.
The clucking like a chicken or something.
Yeah, Hollywood loves to put out these movies that people get stuck in hypnosis and then they go to crimes and all this other stuff. That doesn't happen. People think that hypnosis is about controlling, and you'll never do anything that goes against your morals. Now, do we all have the same moral standards? No. So will some people do some things that some of us wouldn't? Absolutely. But it's really about tapping in to a deeper level of who we are. And we always use the iceberg model as a way to explain it. When you think of an iceberg, there's a part that's above the waterline and there's what's below the waterline. And if you look at what brought down the Titanic, it wasn't what was above the waterline, and what was below the waterline. And what's below that waterline is our deepest beliefs, our feelings, stories that we've been holding on to all of our lives. And that's what's running us, and we're clueless. So for me, hypnotherapy is about really learning more about the true essence of who you are.
Yeah, I love that, because that limiting belief it could be something like, I feel uncomfortable, or I feel like I'm always in an anxious state, and you go into hypnotherapy and you're like, well, imagine there's a peaceful place, and how does that feel? And you just get in contact with that feeling, and then you begin to live in that vibration. Give some context about the different things that you can experience while going through that peaceful hypnosis stage.
Probably the most successful one I can share is a project we've been doing with one of the Banner hospitals here in town, where we have gone in and spent anywhere from 20 maybe to 40 minutes with a patient who's had some sort of procedure, is in discomfort of some kind, and we go in and we do our work with them. And we have been able to document that we've been able to lower the pain, the nausea, and the stress by 50%.
Wow.
So we've been doing that for quite some time. We've got thousands and thousands of hours we've done there, and consistently we see the same results. I've seen people who have had anxiety, social anxiety, and after a session or two, it's gone. I've seen people who struggle with self-esteem, with weight, smoking cessation, you name it. There's so many different ways this can be utilized. And really it goes back to, what do you believe to be true about yourself is how you act and show up in the world. So what do we believe that might be false? And probably the one that I'm the biggest fanatic about is the belief that we're not good enough.
So good. So many people walk around with this, I'll never be good enough. My parents didn't like me. My boss doesn't like me. They walk around with these weights of just shame and guilt and unworthiness. What are some things that you want to say to people that feel like that?
Well, first of all, as bizarre as this may sound, I think that's part of the perfect plan. I think we almost have to experience not feeling good enough so that when we embrace that we're good enough, we see the difference. And then we embrace it more fully.
Yeah.
I think it's part of the human condition that we all are given an opportunity to go into self-doubt. And then what are we going to do with it? This is a bit of a stretch, but I think that when we take on physical form is when the doubt starts.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because you get that earth vibrational mind, yeah.
And it's like, from my perspective, you're with spirit. Whatever you choose to identify spirit as, you're in that space with spirit fully and completely. Then all of a sudden you're pushed into a physical world. It's like you're being abandoned because you weren't good enough to stay there. And there's a lot of people that are caught up in this belief that they were forced to come here, that they didn't want to take on a physical form.
Wow.
And that causes a lot of stress and anxiety for people right there. They're constantly saying, I want to go home. I want to go home. I hear it all the time.
Wow.
And for me, again, I think it's part of the human condition to doubt ourselves, so that when we can claim who we truly are, then we'll own it, as opposed to it just given to us. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I love that context. So I was given a religious narrative. It's one life. You pay some bills and you die. And you hope you get out of here and you get to go to the good place, not the bad place. And then I was given the context of, if you don't get it right, you go to conscious, eternal torment forever. So that gave me a lot of spiritual anxiety. So that's, you know, even part of the impetus of the exploring the human journey is, well, what is this life about? And so as I begin to discover and experience and explore, this year of 2018, I come across Dr. Michael Newton's Journey of Souls, where he has a sample size of 7,000 case studies, and they all basically said, I was a soul, I had some journey I wanted to take, my guides and my soul groups are here to support me, I'm incarnating, I've had many eons of lifetimes to have a journey of soul. And I went, wow, what a great narrative to give us a spiritual construct of this is a constant evolution of discovery rather than you got to get it right. So give me some context from what you've experienced, your personal journey, and talking with all of the people you've talked. Give me some of that spiritual overview that you've discovered.
Well, I do think that we have multiple lifetimes. The concept that the soul never dies. And the soul, it's like when you change your clothes, you feel different when you wear different kinds of clothing.
Yeah.
So it's like the soul puts on a new suit and says, now I'm going to explore life from this paradigm. And I think it's like a faceted crystal. You know, there's so many different sides to it. And there's beauty, no matter how you turn it, you just get a different perspective. And that's what we're doing. And the goal is to experience everything.
Yeah.
And in the everything, you come to compassion. So you've got to be the victim. You've got to be the victimizer. You've got to play all those roles so that you truly understand the human condition.
Yeah.
So for me, that's been the experience. And there are some people who will say this is their first time that they've been here in a physical world. And that's a possibility. I don't know.
And then you're like, tell me more, sweetheart.
Well, no, I mean, it's possible. I don't know everything.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't know. No soul is more perfect than the other.
Yeah.
So it's almost like a contest. How many lives have you had? And how many lives have you not had? And what's that mean about you? Are you an old soul or a new soul?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of earth mythologies based around that.
Absolutely. And people will say, well, I'm an old soul, and you know, I know old people that act like kids and kids that act like adults. So it's kind of like, and your point is what?
Yeah.
I don't, you know, so whatever. Let's not make it a contest, but it's really about our own evolution and how we feel about ourselves. You know, I, for years said, I'm never coming back here. I'm never coming back here. And I did my darndest to try to get out of here.
Yeah.
I was suicidal for a portion of my life and attempted it a couple of times and really was not a happy camper. And fortunately for me, I truly believe past lives saved me because I had this thought one day after I attempted to commit suicide one more time. And I had this thought, and I thought, if I really believe in angels, I don't think when I get there, wherever there is, they're going to go, oh, we're so sorry you had a bad time. They're going to just hold my feet to the fire and say, okay, you didn't learn, so let's amp it up a little bit and make it a little tougher. And I thought, I'm not willing to risk
That's good.
that, so I better get it right now. So that put me really full force into this journey that I've been on.
Because I've heard that, if you don't get it this time and you decide to exit early, you're like, well, you got to go back because you didn't accomplish. And you're like, yeah, you're right. I've heard these folks in hypnotherapy actually feel that energy of, oh, I remember leaving my body. I remember talking to my spirit guide. And he wasn't mad at me, or she wasn't mad at me.
Right.
They put their arm around and said, okay, now we picked out that body. You kind of wasted the perfectly good body.
Right.
And then they go, well, what would you like to do? And you're like, I want to come back and do it again. I've heard those beautiful stories.
Right. And I think that there's this sense of that we have to be perfect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If you don't get it right, you somehow missed the mark.
Right. And I'm not even sure what perfect is.
Exactly.
What if it's all perfect? And again, I think not to badmouth religion, organized religion, but
oh, you can leave that to me. I'll be more happy to do that.
All right. So, I think that there was a sense of we need to be in control.
Yeah.
So one of the ways we're going to control people is we're going to put the fear of God into you that, this is it. If you don't get it right, then, as you said, hell and damnation.
One and done, and then the judgment.
Right. And it's like, I often joke that I think reincarnation is God's way of recycling. Mm-hmm. If we do it here and we think it's such a good thing, don't you think he'd think it's a good idea? Mm-hmm. And we'd just be recycling, making something out of something else. Yeah. So it seems natural. I have to say that, am I looking forward to what my next life will be? I think, what do I want to learn next? I don't really want to be a kid again. Didn't like that part.
Go through that. But, well, that's why we get the amnesia, right? So you can't remember what you did last time, so you get a clean slate.
Right, but then you start remembering.
Have you had those remembrances yourself?
I've had many past life experiences that have been quite interesting. I've had my eyes poked out. That's a funny story.
Yeah, that sounds hilarious, having your eyes poked out. Gee, Linda, tell me more.
Well, what's really interesting is many, many years ago, I was wanting to have permanent makeup done. And that's tattooing.
Yeah.
And so I went to the person that was going to do it. And I already have one tattoo. So we weren't concerned about me having a problem with that. She did a little ink test to make sure that I would take the dye okay. And so then I went and I was having my eyebrows, my eyeliner, and my lips done. So she gets me on the table and she starts working on me, and I start screaming bloody murder.
Whoa.
I was beside myself. And at one point I yell, "This is what torture feels like."
Oh my God.
And she's looking at me like I'm nuts. And she goes, "Well, apparently you've never had a baby." I said, "No, I haven't." "But what does that have to do with anything?" And screamed again.
Wow.
And so it took hours for us to get this done. And she only got my eyebrows and my eyeliner done. She said, the lips. And I said, another day.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I went home and my face started to swell. And it got bigger and bigger and redder and hotter. My face blew up so much that it literally blew the eyeliner because it opened up where the liner had gone in my eye. Blew it out of my body.
Oh, no.
And so for 3 days, my head was so big, I thought it was going to burst. Thought I was going to die. Then I wanted to because it was so painful. So then I had an associate, this is when I was in California, did a session with me, and it took me back to a past life where I was of some sort of Asian nobility. And the whoever's came in and was massacring everybody. And they were going to make an example of me. So they cut off all my hair and poked my eyes out.
Oh my
and
God.
I spent the rest of my life in a opium den. So we started to work on this.
Wow.
And all of a sudden my swelling started to go down. And once we finished processing it, the swelling went down and my face was fine. But what was really interesting, which led up to this, is I don't like to have my hair cut. I have a thing, and I think this is where it started. Earlier that day, I had gone to the person that does my hair. He was Japanese.
Oh.
And he cut my hair a little bit more than I wanted him to.
Oh.
The woman that did my eyes was Korean.
Oh.
So I had all this Asian influence. Yeah. And my partner in that lifetime, when they cut my hair off and poked my eyes off, left me. My partner in this lifetime, when my face started to swell, went to the other end of the house and wouldn't have a thing to do with me. And he was the person. So that was quite an interesting experience.
Yeah, yeah. So you felt this physical as well as this emotional.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's sometimes the most powerful past lives, is when somebody will literally have a physical change in their body. I had another situation where I had a problem with one of my knees, and somebody said, "Oh, you're getting arthritis." And I thought, "Oh, Lord," and I thought, I don't want arthritis.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to another one of my associates that worked in herbs and things and said, "What do we need to do? What can I take to, stave this off?" And we found a past life with my boss at that time, where I was her brother and we were gun runners. Oh. And I blabbed to somebody and she shot me in the knee.
Oh, geez.
And we were having some challenges working together. And once I figured that out, I don't have arthritis. And that was 30 years ago.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I love that, how there's people that we kind of go through these lifetimes together, and they'll play different roles, different characters in our lives. Mm-hmm. I find that fascinating. The victim in one, you might now be the victim, and the other, and you might train through whatever that karmic journey is.
Yeah, I had my mom put a stake through my heart in one of my lifetimes.
Oh, God. Wow. So I feel like there's this energy of learning and growing, and so many times we're afraid of, like, I don't want to mess it up. I don't want to get it right. I want to do the, get the college degree, have the white picket house, the fence in the house, and then, have the 401k plan and retirement, have a nice, safe life. But that's not what we're here to do. We're to have this experience of our soul, and it's more about, well, what is that thing that I wanted to experience? So many people feel like if they don't do it right, then they got it wrong and they messed up. But part of the experience is, what does it feel like to do it wrong?
Well, and I don't think you can do it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there is a wrong.
Yeah.
I think it's a different side of something. Yeah. And each opportunity is an opportunity for us to grow in some awareness, whatever that may be. And so I don't know that we do it wrong. I'm not a big one for regrets.
Yeah.
Shoulda, coulda, woulda, we'd all be millionaires.
Yeah. It wastes a lot of mental and emotional energy.
Yeah.
You're worried about what happened or worried about what's going to happen. And I love that presence, just staying right here, because this is where the action is right here. Yeah,
it is. Yeah. And at the same time, there is a challenge that we also need to keep our eye on going forward. Mm-hmm. Yes, it's here, but what are you doing in going forward? Yeah. And reflecting occasionally on what's behind, as to, oh, that's interesting. Now I see how this piece matches up with this piece, and constantly being aware of all of it.
Yeah. So give some presence to your journey. Somewhere you had some life things that happened and you began to switch into a career of hypnotherapy. So give me some idea of who you are, where you came from, how this whole thing started, how you got to be Linda Bennett.
How I got to be Linda Bennett.
This character that you're playing this time.
That got dropped on this planet with the wrong parents.
Oh, wait a minute. I thought you choose your parents. Tell me more.
Sadly, we do, and I don't know what I was thinking.
What was I thinking?
I've often wondered. But that's a whole nother story.
Well, that's the story I'm asking about.
So I grew up in Portland, Oregon. Mother and father divorced early on. Mm-hmm. Have a brother. Don't have a family connection. Never really did. And I've really learned that wasn't the intent in this lifetime. Mm-hmm. Family was not supposed to be a part of my journey. I was supposed to do it all on my own and prove that I could do it on my own.
So that self-assertiveness.
Yes. Yeah. Anyway, I left Oregon probably in the early 80s and moved to California, spent a number of years there. And in the process, for many years, I was in the retail business. I was in the fashion business for many, many, many years.
Well, that makes sense. You always have great clothing taste, so.
A lot of people say that and want to go and, shop in my wardrobe, But anyway, so I was in that field for many, many years. And then I got in the field of catering.
Oh.
And I've had a couple of catering businesses over the years. It's the hardest work I have ever done in my entire life.
Wow. So you're preparing the food as well as delivering it, the whole thing.
Oh, the whole 9 yards.
And you have to deal with crazy people and their expectations. And you're getting fired up, aren't you?
Yeah. The thing was, it was my creativity that needed to be voiced. And I thought I was going to be the Martha Stewart of the West Coast. I was determined. And I was good at it. But as a business person, not my strong suit. I would give people more than what they asked for.
Oh.
And because I had so much fun putting on these lavish events, I'd overdo it and not charge enough. So what happened is I was in the process of my business going bankrupt, my marriage going south, and really not feeling good about myself. And someone said, you should try hypnotherapy. Okay. So I didn't know what I was getting into. So I went for a session, and I came out of the session and I went, well, I kind of already do this because I had insomnia and I used imagery to help myself overcome that a little bit.
Like listening to a tape or something?
No, to myself.
You just did it for yourself?
For myself.
Oh, so you've already worked on that. Okay.
A little bit, yeah. And by accident. I didn't really know how I got there, quite frankly, but it was all perfect. And a week later, 2 weeks later, I was in class, and the rest is history. So I've been on that hypno journey now for almost 25 years, and it was the best thing I ever did. And I know this is what I've come to do. You mentioned Journey of Souls, and when Michael Newton's book first came out, he was in Northern California at the time, and I was at a small bookstore where he spoke. There's only probably 10 of us there.
Wow!
And fascinated with his book. So what I did is I read the book, and at the time I worked in a clinic where there are a number of us practitioners, and I asked them, please don't read the book. So then I went and did my own sessions to see how that would play out. And I will say that my one experience in between lifetimes where I really went to the ultimate end, I got real clear that I'm a teacher, and that's what I was supposed to do. And if you had said, prior to that, that I was meant to be a teacher, I kind of would have liked, what? It didn't necessarily resonate for me, other than I wanted to be a dance teacher as a kid, So the teaching thing, but it's definitely what I've come here to do is to be a teacher. And so I found that the journey has been obviously a lot of self-reflection. I think all of our journeys is, a self-reflection.
Well, that's kind of the whole thing is the soul reflection. What am I learning? What am I growing through? Right.
And I just really feel that I have so much passion for the field that I probably get a little obnoxious to some people, because I'm over the top
I can't
excited
imagine
about
that,
it.
Linda.
Well, I'm sure there's some people think that I'm just, I could say I have an ex-husband who thinks I'm, possessed by the devil. So.
No.
Oh, well.
I love it.
That's kind of what I said. I said,
what I like about your teaching style is I was keenly aware that you're teaching Hypnotherapy 101 like every other week. You're teaching it at night. You're teaching it on these weekend workshops.
Online.
You're teaching it online. And never did I feel like you were bored with the material. You were still engaging us as students. You're like, hey, this is really exciting. Even though you'd said it, hundreds of times in the last few years or whatever, recently. But you keep us feeling your excitement, and I really thought that was neat.
Well, and I'm excited about it. Probably the biggest challenge is because I have stories to share, I'll share a story and then I'm going, okay, did I share that story with that group or that group or that group or that group? So it's making sure I get my stories, that I don't repeat myself. But yeah, I absolutely love it. And, I've been at SWIHA for 18 years teaching the program, and I taught before, I got to SWIHA, and I I can't imagine doing anything else but.
Give some presents to the Southwest Institute of Healing Arts and that whole journey, how you've been incorporated there.
Let me tell you how I got there.
Yes.
I moved to Arizona in 2000. And when I moved over, I arrived here on April 1st. April Fool's Day was probably a surprise. Surprise. And I landed in Surprise.
Oh, of course you did.
That's where I was living, was in Surprise.
Yes.
And with a couple of my associates, there were 3 of us that moved there. And we were going to start our stage hypnosis. We had a stage hypnosis business. We were going to get it going there. And then I was going to start building my private practice. Well, come July, I am like running out of funds. And I'm like, I got to do something. So I sign up to be a census taker.
That sounds not exciting.
And I'm like, seriously?
That sounds opposite of being a teacher and instructor. Yeah.
Right. So I said, I did a little prayer and I said, all right, God, if this is what I'm supposed to do, I will do it. So I go to my first day on the job, and and I'm going door to door. In July in the summer, it's so cool.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, and I go home that night, and I kept saying, "Okay, God, if this is what I'm supposed to do, I will do it." And the next day, I go in, and they say, "We're going to make you a supervisor." I've been there one day. Okay, and you get to sit here in a Burger King. And all your people that are out will just come and report to you.
Oh.
So I get to sit there.
Wow.
And I'm like, okay, I get it. I'm supposed to do this. Well, one of the workers, one of the team says, well, what do you do when you're not doing this? And I said, well, I'm a hypnotherapist. And she goes, the school I teach massage at, I think they need a hypnotherapy instructor.
Oh, my word.
So that's what got me to Sweha.
Wow, connect those dots.
I know. And it's like, so, and so it's been history ever since.
Yeah.
And so I've been there ever since. And it's been, Sweha.
So you didn't just walk in and say, hey, I'm here to teach. How'd that process work?
I sent Casey, and of course did not understand Casey was initial K, and initial C. I wrote it as Casey, as everybody does if you don't know.
Yeah.
Sent her a letter, sent her my brochure, and she called me and said, we'd love to interview you. And so I went and interviewed, and, a week or two later I was teaching. And, that was clear over when we were on Miller Road before we moved even to the most recent building, and now we're in the new building. Yeah. And it's been an incredible experience. Casey is really a visionary, and she can drive things beyond what you ever thought was possible. Yeah. And I really have so much respect and honor for her, and respect and honor that she allowed me to really develop the program, because when I first came in, the program was fairly small, and I remember teaching my first class. I don't think there were very many people in it. And I said, we're going to get bigger than the massage program. You just watch. And we've gotten very big.
Oh, that's so fun.
So I was determined to grow it as much as I could. And it, when we first started, we only had 100 hours. That's all we had. And then I started adding advanced classes, and then I got the clinical certification program on board, and it's been a great adventure.
Yeah. I like that, because you're not a self-certifying group. You have a national certification. Give presence to that.
Yeah. We have a couple different certifications our students can achieve. First of all, as a school, we cannot certify what we teach. It's called a conflict of interest.
Absolutely.
So we have outside agencies. So our 100-hour students have 2 associations they can be certified by. We also have the International Medical Dental Hypnosis Association that our students can be certified, and the American Council of Hypnotist Examiners certify the clinical. So they have a lot of different routes they can go to be certified.
Oh, you told a story about the dentist that wanted to kind of do this to kind of help his patients.
Yes.
Tell that story. That was really good.
Sure. There's a gentleman who was a dentist, and there are a lot of dentists who have a struggle being liked by their patients, because most of us don't enjoy going to the dentist. And this gentleman decided that he needed to learn hypnosis if he could help relax his patients. That would make a difference. Well, it worked so well that somehow, I don't remember if he had a patient that spontaneously went into a past life, or he was practicing and he had an experience of a past life and he was fascinated. He gave up dentistry and now he's a past life regressionist.
Yeah. And because hypnotherapy is so fascinating, you get to learn about your soul when you're doing that.
Absolutely.
It's more than just, oh, I'm going to go learn how to sleep better or to stop smoking.
Right.
I'm fascinated by the visualization that helps unlock that subconscious.
Right. Yeah.
And I love how you really give presence to, okay, we're going to turn off that active mind, the one that's up there with the checklist and, you know, the planner book. And
right.
let's give that guy something to do and have him go sit over on this side. And now we're going to go and do some deep work at the subconscious level.
Right.
Give some presence between conscious, subconscious, and unconscious.
Well, you know, there's lots of theories on where do you draw the line, where does the conscious stop and the subconscious start and all of that. In general, the belief is that 90% of us is our conscious mind. That's what we walk around with day in and day out. And then the rest is subconscious, unconscious, and the collective unconscious.
The collective unconscious.
So you've got all of those avenues of gaining information. And the belief is that we have stored every experience we've ever had. And we store it, I often use the metaphor of a file cabinet. Imagine you're a file cabinet and you have a file drawer. It's a 4-drawer drawer, and you have one for your spiritual self. You have one for your physical body. You have one for your emotional body and one for your mental body. And within that, there's all kinds of files of experiences and emotions. And we keep adding to those files. And sometimes, for example, if you've ever been in a conversation with somebody and they really get angry more so than what the moment warrants, you know there's something else going on. So did that anger file get popped open and a whole bunch of stuff came up?
Yeah.
You know, people can get in arguments with a loved one even, and all of a sudden they're bringing up stuff from, 10 years ago. Well, remember when?
Yeah.
And it's like, because we've stored all those experiences. The problem is, they become the foundation for every decision we make after that. Yeah. And the first experience, the decision we made, may be tainted. In other words, especially if we were very young, we make a decision based on our knowledge at that point in our lives, and it could be mistaken. I see it a lot, especially with people and beliefs around their childhood and their family and their upbringing. And this person didn't like that, and this person didn't like that, and this person said that and that. And the stories we've made up for ourselves that are basically misperceptions. I'll give you an example. During this whole hypnosis journey that I was initially on, I went to work on low self-esteem. And I was told I had 17 causes. And I thought, oh my God, I'll be there for the rest of my life. How long is this going to take? And we cleared a whole bunch of them in one session. But there was one I really needed to look at. So I'm in another session, and all of a sudden my arms just ache. And I'm kind of, what's going on? And they're both aching right here. And all of a sudden, I had this image of my mother grabbing me by my arms. And I'm about 4 or 5, and she's shaking me, saying, I hate you.
Oh, my.
And so in that moment, I made the decision, if my mother hates me, then the rest of the world has got to hate me, right? That just laid the foundation.
It's logical and makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah. Especially if you're a young child.
Right, yeah. And so then in this moment of this experience, I see what's going on. And what I see is my mother, it was a Sunday morning, my mother had slept in, and my grandfather had just built her this beautiful piece of furniture. And my brother and I had nothing to do. So we decided we would decorate my mother's new furniture. And we took red nail polish and painted my mother's new furniture. And in that moment, in that hypnosis session, I went, oh, I get it. She was mad at me for what I just done, and she had every right to be mad at me. What her saying that didn't hold any weight anymore, and it just shifted something huge for me, huge. And my mother had already passed on, so I couldn't even do this work with her in physical form. This was in spirit form that I got all this information, and it was so freeing.
Yeah, I've done those things as a child. I look back and go, well, I'd have given me a whooping too.
Right, exactly.
I'd have been mad because why did I do that? I used to break a lot of windows as a kid. For whatever reason, put a rock in my hand and I would find glass somewhere. And then, you realize as an adult, well, that's why my parent reacted. They've got their own stuff they're working through. And it's very freeing when you can experience that.
Right, exactly. And I really do believe that we all have these defining moments. And that we have a right to redefine them.
Beautiful.
And you can redefine them anytime you want.
Yeah. That active imagination is also a form of healing. I love how you give presence. Give me some idea of the power of the imagination.
The imagination has created everything that we see.
Beautiful.
The imagination, it starts in the imagination and then it comes into being. So absolutely everything, no matter whether it's that coffee mug, it's this table, the tile that we're, here on, all of that was in somebody's imagination before it came into being.
Yeah.
So our imagination is an incredible resource that we use. Unfortunately, a lot of times we use it to our detriment. We imagine worst case scenarios. I can remember as a young adult that the way they taught you stress management was imagine the worst case scenario. And when that didn't happen, you would feel better.
Oh God. So you're focusing on the worst case scenario.
Right. And that's that was the teaching.
Worst case scenario.
Right. And what do you think we did? We manifested a lot of worst case scenarios. So then we could go, see, I was right about that. What do you want to be right about? So for me, to understand the power of our imagination and to really utilize it. So many people say, well, I'm not imaginative. Yes, you are. You do it all the time. But people think imagination means their ability to paint a picture from scratch. That's not what it is. We're imagining absolutely everything. If you get up to go across the room, you're going to even imagine that before you physically do it.
Yep.
So the imagination is the heart of everything. And if we can master our imagination in a way that it works for us, then I think we become much happier and much more at peace.
I love the teaching you've put into me that if you can imagine it, you can manifest it. If you can imagine that health or that happy life or that feeling of peace or living in that abundant space, that's how you manifest it.
Right. There are a lot of people that believe so strongly in our ability to manifest that they also believe that we manifest cancer for ourselves and things like that nature. So then there's sometimes some guilt and blame put on people. You must have manifested that.
Oh boy, yeah.
And it's a thought. And what if, yes, it could be a way for you to learn something, but what if we manifested it to be the opportunity for somebody else to learn something? That we signed up to be teachers, and that maybe our illness is giving a doctor an opportunity to create something. So even those things that we would say, why did I manifest this horrible thing in my life? What if it's not so horrible? It's just an opportunity to learn, but we see it as good and bad.
That's beautiful. I've been reading Your Soul's Plan by Robert Schwartz, and it's talking about pre-birth planning. It's a fantastic book, and he will connect with people, whether it's through hypnotherapy or with a psychic medium, and they'll get information about that soul that had a plan, and they'll talk with addicts, they'll talk with alcoholics, they'll talk with people that have blindness or deafness or diseases, and they'll find out there's something their soul needed to accomplish. And, I was reading this morning about a man that was an alcoholic, and he came to lose his faith in himself as part of the divine and feel unworthy, so he could go through this alcoholism and had ramifications for his children. And then he realized through this process, he entered into 12-step program, that he could then feel, again, his connection with divine source and realize he was part of the all. And then so that pre-birth planning included an addiction so that he could transmute that fear. And it was actually, he was a very bold, courageous soul to come here to be an alcoholic and learn how to transmute that fear.
Absolutely.
Wow.
I take a lot of my clients through that process of, if I always ask if we have permission to do so, and I ask if it would be benefit, to the client at this time. I would like to go back to prior to this lifetime and the choices that were made before we stepped into this lifetime. And I can't tell you how many times people who are, especially if they're in a lot of angst about their horrible life, see in the planning process, oh, I picked this. I picked this person to be in my life. I picked this person to be my parent. I picked, oh, I'm
not a victim.
Yeah.
I'm at cause for all of this.
Yeah. And I think, part of the process of that too is helping us recognize that we were always capable of handling whatever is thrown at us.
Yeah.
And we lose that belief in ourselves that we're capable. I can't handle this. Yeah, you can.
Mm-hmm.
You picked it so you could prove to yourself that you can handle it.
Yeah.
But we forget that. And so I find that very process of helping people see what they chose in this lifetime can be mind-boggling and very, very healing.
Yes. I have a child, sweet lady Gail and I have a child that has struggled with addiction. Mm-hmm. And I put myself in victim mode. I didn't plan on you being an addict, and look how you've impacted my life. And I worked through the feelings of like I wasn't a good parent, but then it turned into I was a good parent, and you did this, and I realized after reading this pre-planning book that I signed up to go through this journey with him. So it's something my soul wants to go through it, and it has transmuted that victimhood energy. And now I'm like, no, I'm at cause for my choice to be here to help him. And so now it just gives me compassion. It's given me understanding. We still have boundaries. There's certain things that this is okay and this isn't, because I'm in 3D world here, and there's still things we need to do. But it's given me a greater compassion to learn about souls that are courageous enough to go through this for a greater good of their soul or a greater good of consciousness, or there's some purpose for this rather than just, oh, you failed at life. Oh, you're a loser, or whatever that stigma is. Right. And do you have those addict things that you've worked with people in treatment centers?
I worked in treatment for a while, and absolutely I've seen that. And one of the things that might be of interest to you at some point is there's another process I do where once you're in hypnotic trance, I have you step into your son and walk through life and see life through his eyes.
Interesting.
And that to me is also another really incredible experience. We always get permission to do it. You just don't blindly go into somebody's, space. But it's really fascinating to see that experience. And again, I'll give you a firsthand one. I had an alcoholic father. I grew up with an alcoholic father. Well, he wasn't around much, but that environment. And my parents were both very young. I think there should be a law that you can't have kids when you're under, I don't know what age, but they were very, very young. Yeah. And I was about 2, and I was working on clearing up my not good enough stuff. And I'm out on the front lawn. This is in hypnosis. I'm having the experience. And my mom is in the house with my brother, who was only about 6 months old. And my dad's drunk someplace. And I feel abandoned. And there's where and I was on this very big lawn. My grandparents had a huge lawn. I don't know why they had such a huge lawn, but they did. And it seemed like it went for miles. Of course. And I'm way out there by myself. So when you're a little kid, that looks like forever, right? And I'm abandoned and nobody knows where I'm at. And so I'm in hypnosis, and I'm suggested to go step behind my mother and step into her. And I'm like, I was so resistant. I said, oh, hell no, I'm not going there, because I was not fond of the energy my mother put out in the world. So I finally went, okay. So I stepped in, and I saw her life from her experience.
Ooh, wow.
And I saw in that moment, she had more faith in me as a 2-year-old than she did herself.
Oh, wow.
And at that moment, I got real clear that my journey was never about her being my mother. It was about giving me life, and then I was on my own. And to get over it. And I had been mad at my mother all my life. And in that moment, I could not be mad at her any longer, and I've never been able to get mad at her since.
That's such a freeing, just letting that energy go.
Yeah. And when I saw it from her perspective, it was It's really powerful. And I do a similar exercise in one of the advanced hypno classes, especially with our online students. And I ask them to pick somebody and walk in their shoes. And very often, a lot of times they'll pick famous people, but sometimes they'll pick a family member that's struggling with addiction or something of that nature, or an abusive parent or whatever. And the insight they gain from that experience is so profound. And I think it's something that we as human beings could easily do day in and day out. There are some people in the world that I'm not fond of. And I sometimes try to step into their shoes and imagine what that must be like.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I'd want to be in their shoes.
Yeah.
Even though I have an opinion on how they're doing it.
Yeah, boy, you have strong opinions. I do too.
Right.
I would never do that until you
Right.
put yourself in their position. You're like,
Right.
okay, I guess at least I can understand why they do
Right.
it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Now, you are really good at giving information. I know you have your own personal website. You do private consultations with people. As an instructor at SWIHA, people can come there and enjoy that. I know that you've got some works here. You've got different meditations that you do. You've got a book here, which is fascinating, I want to talk about, called Spiritual Suicide. And you've also got some creative imagery. You also give scripts and provide scripts for people to have, where they can go through and do hypnotherapy. Talk about the work you're doing professionally and the resources that you've provided for people.
Well, boy, I wear about 4 hats.
Yeah,
I mean, besides teaching on campus and teaching online, I have a private practice that I love. And, people have asked me, I am at retirement age, why aren't you retiring? And I'm like, why?
You're retiring at 35? What?
Yeah, right. Nice job. Nice try. Anyway, so I have no interest in retiring, and I still do sessions every week, and I adore doing sessions with clients. And I speak at conferences. I am so active in this work that I live and breathe it. It's just part of who I am. And so I'm either coaching or doing hypno sessions at least a full day every week, and sometimes in the evenings if I'm not teaching in the evenings. And so I try to squeeze them in where
I don't know how you stay awake in an evening class. I was like, wow, how do you stay awake?
If you're doing what you love and you're passionate about it, how can you not be awake for it? And that's it. I have such a passion for this, and it just feels like who I am. I joke that there are some, I would like to believe my guardian angels are Milton Erickson and Edgar Casey and
so
Carl
good.
Jung.
Yes.
And so I call on them a lot.
Yep.
But I mean, those were people, that pioneers that went before me, and I'm very drawn to their work, and I want to learn as much as I can and do as much as I can. And I can't get enough of it. I think that as a practitioner, that makes me a better teacher. Because I work with clients all the time. So I have new experiences all the time that I can bring into the classroom too.
Yeah. Yeah, and you have developed, like specifically the scripts here, you've given resources. So there's somebody that's going to be like, hey, I want to get into hypnotherapy, but I don't have a lot of resources. So you've actually developed scripts here. These are really good. I'm just picking one out, Releasing Limitations. And so you tell people how to relax, and then you give some visualization, and the practitioner can go through here. You can literally read this, give some space. I love that it's really good if you have training. If you've never had a training, you probably don't want to do this at home, because then you'll be like, I'm confused. But as students, we learned how to follow the script, how to observe, give some space for the breathing, the relaxation, see if the eyes were in a REM state or whatever those signs were. And then, ask, can I continue? And have, if so, nod your head. You had alluded to the ideomotor response of moving fingers and things like that. I mean, these were fascinating things I learned about. But you've created creative imagery scripts here. How do you develop this? Is it through just things that come to you? Is it imagery that you've created?
I would probably say I'm the queen of metaphors. I love metaphors. We all work with metaphors, but a lot of people don't recognize them. We learned with pictures before we ever learned to talk. Before we had words, we had images that we attached to things. If you go through an airport in a foreign country, thank God they have signs with a little baggage, so you know where. Otherwise, you wouldn't know where to get your baggage,
Especially
right?
if it's an Asian country.
So imagery,
Yeah.
images, and metaphors are the natural language of the subconscious mind. So finding those metaphors that can get the message to the client is much faster than telling them what to do. They'll relate to it faster. So one of the ones that you just opened up to is a script called Removing the Armor.
Yeah.
I use that a lot for weight clients.
Ah.
And have them, and so often when somebody's struggling with weight, they have this protection that they've put on for various reasons and making it safe for them to take the armor off.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a powerful image for many, many people, and they relate very well to it. Is it for everyone? No. So you've got to have all kinds of different metaphors. Probably the very first script I ever wrote was one called Clearing the Stairs.
Mm.
And I was working in recovery at the time and wanted to write a script for 12 steps.
Mm-hmm.
I learned quickly that you can't do all 12 steps in one session, but that was my initial thought.
I've got a great idea.
Yeah, right. Each step was
okay, now step 9, and they're like, oh.
Right. So I learned that didn't work, but what came out of it was this amazing script that I've been using for 25 years very successfully, and probably the easiest way to clear difficulty for people. And it works really well, and it's a metaphor. So all of my scripts have been an inspired metaphor. And that's just how my brain works. I'll get a metaphor, an idea for something, I'll write it down and stick it someplace, and then at some point I'll typically make up a script while I'm working with the client, and then the script gets written from there.
So you've got a whole box of little
ideas,
fold-it notes and napkins.
Yes, I do. I have a ton of those, and I enjoy writing them.
Yeah.
I love coming up with the metaphors. It's a way that my brain works. And some people, during the next level of hypnotherapy that you haven't taken yet, the students all have to write their own metaphor.
Yeah.
And some of them are like deer in the headlights going, I don't know what to do. And it's like, just, slow down. Think about, we use metaphors all the time. This represents this. What's another way to say this? And so it's quite an adventure. And again, for me, I kind of entertain myself with
Yeah. While we're at that space, I still want to talk about that. For the viewer, the listener that is hearing your content, they are thinking, well, hypnotherapy sounds interesting, but I don't want to be a hypnotherapist professionally. I would submit, take hypnotherapy 101, 201, you do a practicum, get these tools, learn how to help yourself, learn how to help your kids, learn how to help your family members, and just go, hey, look, I'm not a hypnotherapist as a professional, but I've learned some skills. Why don't you relax, close your eyes, and then they learn how to use the tools provided. Give some presents to Sweeha on that whole training.
Well, and first of all, I have a lot of people that have come, especially to Hypno 101, that have come to that class going, I'm just here to learn this for myself. And there is a saying that all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. So that's really what you're teaching to that new student is the basics of hypnosis, the history of it, and how to do it. And it is about self-hypnosis, because we call it self-hypnosis because you're in control. You'll only go as deeply as you want to go. So that's why we say it's self-hypnosis. And so what happens is that some people will take the whole 100 hours and say, I'm just doing it for myself. And then later on, I hear that they've started their own business.
It's really cool.
It is. And it's so rewarding. And again, the project we've been doing in the hospital, teaching patients, about this, and having the patients in the hospital say that this should be offered for every patient in the hospital. Patients saying, this has changed my life and I can't wait to share it with my family. So I think if I were somebody who was just curious and wanted to take a couple classes at Sweeha, I would take life coaching, the intro. I would take hypnotherapy, the intro. At least start with those two. And then there's take a Reiki or a polarity class, take toe reading. There's so many things that you can literally stick your toe in the water
Yep.
and see what resonates for you. And the beautiful thing is you find a way to make it your own dance.
Yeah.
That there are lots of different modalities, and you'll find that you'll take a little bit of this, a little bit of this, a little bit of this, and all of a sudden you have this philosophy and way of being in the world that supports you and your family.
Yeah.
So I think coming to Gifts and Graces, is a great place for people to start. And, you come and you can experience some of the modalities we offer. But I think the thing is, you just got to step in and give it a shot.
You just got to step in and give it a shot. I like that. So you presented me with a book that is called Freedom from Spiritual Suicide. And you said some of the things we do to ourselves is hurting our own spirit.
Oh,
Give me some presence about that.
Okay. Well, I wrote this book in 2007. Casey and another associate and myself, the three of us, challenged all of us to get our books done. And mine finally came out.
Yeah.
And I have, it goes back to the feeling not good enough, that I think we do so much damage to ourselves, no matter what anybody offers us. People can offer you an opinion, but until you agree with it, it doesn't have an impact on you. The problem is we agree with everything that people say about us when half the time it's not true. And so what I really believe is that when we discount ourselves, when we don't take good care of ourselves, when we don't respect our bodies, when we complain to ourselves about ourselves, oh, you stupid idiot, or whatever we say, that we're damaging our spirit. And to me, that's a slow suicide.
Wow.
And you're going to take that with you into another lifetime.
Yeah.
So if I could do away with one thing in the world, it would be the fear that we're not good enough, and to really embrace the incredible souls that we are and what we bring to the world. And I don't think we do enough of that. Yeah. Everybody has a tendency to take on what somebody else has said about them as the truth. And it's really about what you believe about yourself. So to me, that's what all this work has been about. It for me is changing how I believe about myself and to help other people claim their greatness. So that's really what this whole journey has been about, is to change that there's something wrong with me, that no one will ever love me, that I've been abandoned, blah, 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 all the other stuff that I've been saying, when that's not true.
Yeah, beautiful. To close out today's episode, would you give us just a little mini version of a session where maybe the viewer, maybe the listener puts themselves in a safe space where they can sit down and close their eyes, and you could lead them through some nice, I don't know, maybe the ocean or some...
So I'm assuming you're going to do this, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'm excited. It might be a little bit, self-desire here, but give us just that space where we can experience maybe something about letting anxiety go or feeling comfortable.
What about so first of all, just close your eyes. And take in a deep breath. And release it. And take in another breath. And release it. And with each breath you take in, you're taking in positive energy. With each breath you release, you let go of any tension, any negativity stored in your body, allowing yourself to relax completely and to let go. Taking in a breath, and as you release it, you let all the muscles in your head and shoulders soften and relax. And now with another deep breath in, as you release it, you let all the muscles in your arms relax and let go, sinking deeper and deeper down. And now with another deep breath in, as you release it, You let all the muscles in your chest, your stomach, all the way down through your toes relax and let go. Now in a moment, I'm going to begin to describe a variety of images to you. And however you experience those images will be perfect. If at any time you struggle with an image being suggested, then just simply pretend. So I'd like you to imagine that you're someplace out in nature, someplace where there are lots of large trees. You're aware of the landscape that surrounds you, and it's a perfect day. You find yourself now sitting at the base of one of those trees. You're sitting on the ground and you can feel the earth beneath you. Your back is resting against the trunk of the tree and you can feel that strength and that sturdiness behind you. Above you is a canopy of branches and leaves. And here and there between the branches and the leaves are bits of blue sky. As you sit there at the base of this tree, the thought comes to mind how amazing trees are. Mother Nature can stir up a storm, and a tree will bend and shape itself with the wind. The tree adapts. And the reason a tree can do this is because it has great roots that go down deep into the earth. And imagine, like the tree, you now have great roots that go down deep into the earth, helping you to be strong and sturdy and flexible. As you continue to sit there at the tree, the thought comes to mind that nearby, could be the tree you're sitting at or another tree close by, that the tree's leaves have changed color. And when leaves change color, they go from greens to oranges to reds to yellows to browns to golds. And when they do that, it indicates a time of change. It's natural. And once those colors come upon the tree, then those leaves let go of their grip on the branches. And imagine those leaves floating down to the ground. And as you focus on those leaves floating down to the ground, imagine any negativity of any kind, any stress, any distractions, like those leaves, are beginning to float down to the ground. And you feel yourself letting go of any negativity, any stress, any anxiety. It's absolutely natural to let that go as those leaves drift and float down to the ground. And as those leaves drift down to the ground, you feel yourself going deeper and deeper, at the same time letting go of any negativity of any kind, whether it be physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual. Just letting go, letting go. Now, from this moment forward, anytime you experience any negativity or anxiety, stress of any kind, all you need to do is imagine the tree. Feel yourself rooted to the earth and imagine those leaves floating down around you, taking away, releasing that negativity. Soon the leaves have all fallen down around you. The branches on the tree are bare, just waiting for a new opportunity. And so, soon those branches begin to bud with new growth, new opportunity, new awareness. And just experience the expansion as those buds form the most amazing leaves of new opportunity. Now I want you to take in a nice big deep breath. I'm going to ask the subconscious to reinforce this experience in a way that's always for your highest good, bringing you back into present time, wiggling those fingers and toes, becoming more aware, eyes open, fully present.
Wow. That is Linda Bennett Hypnotherapy. Whew. Give presents to your personal website. Give presents to how they can find you at Sweeha.
My personal website is lindahypnoqueen.com. And as far as reaching me at Sweeha, all you have to do is call the front desk at Sweeha, and they ask for me, they'll get you to me.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, do you want the actual...
Well, just meaning that you are an instructor there. If someone wants to sign up for it, they can go to the Sweeha website.
If they want to sign up for a class, they really need to go to Student Services.
Not that they would call you to sign up for class.
People do. People do. They call me and it's
call
like...
admissions,
Yeah, and I'd love to talk to you about it.
Yeah.
And admissions, student services as well. Yep.
Yeah,
that.
beautiful. You have a great presence. You're doing such beautiful work in the world. Thank you for your contribution to my journey.
Thank you.
Thank you for all of the students that you've encouraged, and I know that you are well respected and well loved.
Thank you. My pleasure.
So, thank you. Brilliant. High five.
I'm David Marsh, and you've been watching Exploring the Human Journey on YouTube as a video and listening as a podcast. If you would like to help continue the conversation, please consider supporting us by visiting patreon.com, where you can support us on a monthly basis and get extra bonus content. For as little as $1 a month, you can make this show sustainable and help continue spiritual consciousness. You can also help by following us on Facebook and Instagram. For more information about the show, find us online at exploringthehumanjourney.com.